You're listening to Leeds Student Radio. It's 3 o'clock on Thursday the 31st of January. Good afternoon, this is Nikki Bremner and Alex Monk, and joining us today, our special guest Emma Robson. And you're listening to...
Sexy Syntax!
This show primarily discusses the different quirks within the English language. How should we be pronouncing the year? 2013 or 2013? Was the last decade the noughties or the 2000s? Why do people misuse the word literally and begin every other sentence with "I'm not going to lie about"? We'll also look at political correctness. Is it the Christmas period or the festive period? Torch hour, anyone? One of the reoccurring features will be how to pronounce particular controversial words such as controversy, kilometre and either. We appreciate, however, that it could be a little overbearing to have a whole show devoted to grammar, which is where the sexy part comes in. The last 10 minutes of each show will be dedicated to discussing themes such as sexting, the word queer, and sex as taboo. Nothing too risque, we think. To check out our full schedule, please check out our website at http://lsrfm.com/projects/sexy-syntax. Thank you.
Okay, why do we call it Sexy Syntax? Well, we had two ideas to talk about. We enjoy the use of language, and I think, like everyone, we enjoy sex, although we might not admit it, because sex is a taboo. What is syntax? Syntax is defined, according to the Collins Concise English Dictionary, as the branch of linguistics that deals with the totality of facts about the grammatical arrangement of words in a language. Okay? And sexy, well, sexy could just be interesting, exciting, or trendy, but its most common form is to provoke sexual interest. Okay, we're going to talk about a little bit of language use, and then just to keep the tone on a nice, interesting level, we're going to talk about a bit of sex. Okay, now we don't know everything about grammar, we don't know everything about syntax, we definitely don't know anything about sex. We're not the grammar gurus. We're just here to talk about some interesting stuff. And the big dilemma is, what is correct? Should certain words be used, although they're not correct? Okay, so what we're going to talk about next is, or first, I say, is some intensifiers, some adverbs in the English language that are used when they shouldn't be. So, Alex, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, we're going to start really with the word literally, and I'll start actually with a quote from Nick Clegg, our Deputy Prime Minister. It makes people so incredibly angry when you are getting up early in the morning, working really hard to try to do the right thing for your family and for your community. You are paying your taxes, and then you see people literally in a different galaxy who are paying extraordinarily low tax rates.
We're tearing up this place tonight. Literally. We're gonna set this sleepy town alight. Literally.
And literally, really, it distinguishes the literal from the figurative meanings of a phrase, but is now used at random as an intensifier or a synonym, really, for the word really. So people say, I was literally exploding with laughter. She literally ran a mile. It was literally raining cats and dogs. So why are people using the word literally? I think, Nikki, you've got a funny anecdote when you were on the way home from uni one day.
What was that?
With following the person in front of you on the phone.
Sorry. Yes, I was on the way home, and I was behind a normal university, two lady students, and I counted the amount of times that they used literally in the wrong time, and it was approximately 40, just on the way back to Devonshire Hall, where they reside. And I thought that was quite funny. What about the time that you were subordinating?
Yes, I was on call and someone phoned me and said they were literally showering in the dark, but of course they actually weren't showering in the dark at all because there was a light right next door to them, so that was complete nonsense. Emma, have you had any funny literally anecdotes?
I just literally use literally all the time. So.
Why do you think you use literally? Why? Do you think that it's a thing that has to do with your social upbringing, or do you think just everyone uses it nowadays?
I think everybody uses it. It's just a word that everyone knows, and it probably doesn't help that I'm from Sheffield. So,
why do you think people use it?
Just emphasis.
Yeah,
because there's similar words, isn't there, which people use to emphasise, such as actually, and genuinely.
Yeah, basically is one that was misused quite a few times today, wasn't it?
Yes.
Do you want to look that up in the Bible of common misuses of the English language?
Yeah, it's just generally, people say basically. I think usually when they're trying to explain a difficult concept, they'll say basically. But of course, it's usually not the case at all.
No, as it was when we were learning how to use this equipment, as you probably already learned from listening to this show. I've got some quite good literally quotes. Jamie Redknapp, who most of you will know as a football pundit. Okay, so here's one. These balls now, they literally explode off your feet. Like that one? Right. He's literally left Ben Haim for dead there. That's one, like, I literally died.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Alonso and Sissoko have been picked to literally sit in front of the back four. Sitting cross-legged in front of the cross... No?
No,
Don't like that
no.
one? You don't
No.
like football,
It's not a good one.
He's literally turned him inside out. No?
So again, doesn't work, does it?
And my personal favourite from Redknapp is he had to cut back inside onto his left because he literally hasn't got a right foot.
So yeah, no, I don't. I think it's one of those words which is misused, but I think it's becoming more and more common these days to hear it used. And I think people tend to use it when they're nervous as well, such as the president of Devonshire Hall last year when she was quite nervous having to do a speech.
Yeah.
She said, please do come to the summer ball. It's going to actually be an actually great, amazing opportunity.
Yeah, you're going to have an actual great time or something.
Yes, it's like, why? No need.
Do you think, though, that it's just a symptom of, like, people just complaining all the time? You know, you say when they're like, complaining or they feel nervous or something, or they want to sort of show off how difficult their life is, and they're saying, you know, oh, God, I literally had to walk into uni today. You know, like, spoiled people. I don't know. Maybe it's like the nanny state. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, I just agree.
So why do you use it, though? You're not from a, you know, spoiled... You're not spoiled, are you?
No, I try not to be. I think I just use it just because it's just a really easy word to say and to repeat.
Would you like to stop using it if you could?
If I could find other words, then I'd probably use other words.
Can we offer you like therapy to stop using it?
I've got some other examples though. I've got, you know, really is a word. I mean, over time, literally, I'm sure will become perfectly accepted in the English language because really is an unnecessary. It's a redundant intensifier. You know, you don't need to say that something is real. You know, it's usually real. You don't have to say that it's real, and you don't need to say that things are basic either or genuinely. And another one is terribly, which has been accepted in society.
Have you got an example of terribly?
Oh, it was a terribly good play last night, wasn't it? You know, so it was terrible. It was good in a terrible way. That's what it literally means, to use a good use of the word literally.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think it's becoming used as a device for exaggeration, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's generally what people are using it for these days.
Leona Lewis, when she won the X Factor, said that she literally jumped out of her skin.
Did you?
And Jamie Redknapp, another one for Jamie. I've just got another one written down here saying that in his youth, Michael Owen was literally a greyhound.
Well, I think it's funny you mentioned the X Factor there. That is probably the classic time you see it on television. Actually, I've just used the word classic there. That gets overused quite a bit. But people do say that. They say, how does it feel to win the X Factor? And they say it was literally amazing.
Yeah, but the problem is, you know, you said it yourself. You've made a sort of a mistake, I suppose. Can you call it a mistake? You've said a word that you shouldn't really say. I say basically, and I even say literally sometimes, and you just can't seem to help it. Which brings us into the bigger debate, I suppose. You know, what is actually correct? Correctness is very flexible. I mean, is correct what the dictionary says, or is correct what people actually say? So you could argue that if everyone in the world starts to say literally, does that not mean that it's right to say literally in a non-literal sense?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it will become, like you say, because language is constantly evolving. So why not? But I think at the moment you've got the older generation who probably, definitely, I would say, disapprove of people who overuse the word literally. It tends to be the younger generation, particularly.
But then they might use the word terribly,
students.
you see, which is wrong as well.
That's very true. And that's a word which has kind of become out of fashion, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything else to add on literally, Emma?
No, I did think of an example though. I literally wee myself all the time, but not literally. Yeah.
That would be...
So you urinate yourself?
No.
Literally.
So when is it right then? When is it right to use the word literally?
It's right to use the word literally in the following context: when something is actually literal and you want to emphasise that is literal as opposed to not literal. So, for example, if you wanted to emphasise that you really did have £500 in your pocket, you could say, I literally have £500 in my pocket. I don't know, maybe that's not a very good example. I literally... she was literally shooting at me. If it was actually happening.
Yeah, I guess you'd want to emphasise it.
Yeah. Because some people might just think that you weren't, that you were lying. But
Or it's just a metaphor,
but
yeah.
now people put intensifiers on for everything. You know, absolutely everything, like having cornflakes or, you know, the milk spilling or...
So this is the
being
term we're
late
going to
or-
use then,
I don't know.
intensifiers.
Yes.
Yes.
Adverbial intensifiers.
And that's what we've called ourselves, or this is what we've branded the show as of week 1 on the schedule, Intensifiers, which is great. And I think we'll play that literally song one last time and then go straight over to our pronunciation section, which is always a recurring section of every show, which will last about 5 minutes.
We're tearing up this place tonight. Literally. We're gonna set this sleepy town alight. Literally.
Okay, so I'm going to point to a word and all three of us in the studio will pronounce it, and I can guarantee it will be pronounced at least in 2 different ways. So let's start with the first word.
Controversy.
Controversy.
Controversy, but I was half expecting Nikki to say controversy.
I thought that was wrong. I would have said controversy.
But it's not about what you think's wrong, it's about what do you normally say.
I think I probably normally say controversy.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because controversy is...
So we're right here.
We are completely
Yay.
all right, and that is
Woo.
completely unanimous. Controversy is the correct pronunciation, according not just to the Oxford English Dictionary, but also the BBC. Controversy is correct in both the USA and the UK. But there is a common misconception that the USA say controversy and the UK say controversy. But controversy is completely slang. It's not a correct pronunciation. But what I would say about controversy is it does roll off the tongue a lot nicer, I always find.
Did you just say tongue or tongue?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Tongue.
I
Do you think there's a north-south divide there? What do you say, Emma?
Tongue.
Tongue. And you're from Sheffield.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you?
Okay, the next word.
Research.
Research.
Research. And me and Emma were absolutely correct there. It is research. It's research when it's a noun, so I'm doing some research. When it's a verb, you say I'm going to research an essay. It's researcher, researching. Research is 100% incorrect unless you're American, I guess. But even then, that's debatable. People tend to say research when they're talking about market research, or even when they're talking about the charity Cancer Research. But generally... the advice given is not to use the term research, and obviously it's quite apt that we're in an academic institution here, and I think we're quite divided even in the University of Leeds as to whether it's research or research. But I will quote one academic who says research is done on Google, research involves hard work and books.
But surely if you use it and everyone accepts it, then both should be right.
Well, there we
or
go.
Not. That's sexy syntax for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it does depend on how traditional you are. But both are quite easy to say. I'd say research in some ways actually is a lot easier and it rolls off the tongue better. Okay, the third out of the 4 words.
Advertisement.
It's hard to say it after her because she's already said that. But I'm going to go for
thing.
advertisement.
And I'm going to
No,
say...
only joking.
Go on then.
Advertisement.
Advertisement. I'm going to say advertisement. Now, what tends to happen here is the verb is to advertise. So then when people think of the noun, they add the word ment on the end, and it becomes... Well, they say it as advertisement, just as Emma and Nikki have both said, but it should actually be advertisement. And I heard somewhere, although I have no evidence to back this up, that if you're from the north of England, such as Nikki, who's from Newcastle upon Tyne, and as Emma's just said, from Sheffield, you're more likely to say advertisements. And I don't know whether that's just ignorance or whether it's being American or just being Northern. But advertisement is what is apparently correct. And finally...
I'm not making this word up. Uranus.
Uranus.
Uranus. However, it's very good that you both said Uranus because it really does bring us into the sexy part of the show. And all I can say on Uranus really is that Uranus is what is preferred by astronomers. And I guess they're the people who are dealing with this planet on a day-to-day basis, so maybe we should take their advice. But Uranus really does bring us into the sexy part, which will be led by Nikki Bremner.
Uranus just sounds really, really bad. It just doesn't sound right at all.
I don't think Uranus sounds much better.
Well, speaking about my anus, or Uranus, we'll talk about... We'll move on to the sex bit now.
Excellent.
Yeah, because I think that's been a bit too much grammar. We want people to be open-minded about grammar, but we also want them to be open-minded about sex, okay? So the topic for sex today is, why is sex a taboo? Okay, so could you just put that clip as an introductory clip on?
Okie doke.
Please, please, please believe me. Talking about sex is not embarrassing. Nipple, flap, bottom, hide the sausage. I'm not remotely embarrassed.
So very much on your own there, then.
Last night I did it bent backwards over the sitting room puff. Doing something like that is as normal and ordinary as saying good morning.
I don't want to hear about you bending over backwards.
That's because you're repressed.
No, I just want to keep my dinner down.
Everyone started to laugh and feel uncomfortable there. And that's what taboo is. We feel uncomfortable about it. Why? Why did Raymond off the Thin Blue Liner, he felt uncomfortable about talking about sex? The sex therapist obviously didn't. But the sex therapist is portrayed as someone who is, completely crazy, almost a pervert. Why is this? Why are we worried about sex? Why is it like this? Are you embarrassed about sex?
Well, I think it depends on who you're talking to and the context.
But why would you ever be worried about sex? It's a natural thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's very true. But I think perhaps part of it is to do with society, British society in this case, and what's considered normal, what's considered polite. And it also, like I say, it depends. It's going to be very different talking to your friends than talking to your employer, for example, unless your employer's really laid back.
Do you talk to your employer about sex?
Well, I think Emma's a good person to ask here. Her employer is Chris from Devonshire Hall, the assistant manager.
We do have a few conversations about sex, but I think that's just because we're all kind of on the same level. But I feel like society's made it something a bit more private, and it's one of the very few things that's private about a person, which is why I think we shy away from talking about it.
Do you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, depending on the circumstances and the people that you talk to.
Why are you embarrassed about sex?
I'm one of the very few people that's probably not embarrassed about sex.
I disagree, because last night there was an incident where sex was mentioned to a certain family members, and a certain person not so far from being you
To be
got
fair,
incredibly embarrassed.
To be fair,
is
this an issue of fairness? We're going to be discussing fairness, by the way, in a future episode, but continue.
We weren't talking about sex. I was on the phone to my mum, and Nikki decided it was quite appropriate to make some very sexual noises, which was embarrassing. Whereas if it was a conversation about sex to my mum, then I probably wouldn't have been as embarrassed.
Why are you embarrassed with your mum?
Just because I think it's a topic that maybe you shouldn't talk with, probably to family.
Why?
Just because I'm a daughter and she's my mum, and I don't think she'd like to think about me having sex, just as I wouldn't like to think about her having sex.
You don't have to imagine them doing it, but you could talk about it, couldn't you?
We could do, but I think it's just, I'd prefer to talk to friends about it.
You talk to your friends about it? 'Cause
Yeah.
there's some people that don't. People that just totally avoid the subject. I think that we've been conditioned by society to say that sex is wrong. And it comes back, a lot of people have done a lot of studies about this, and let's go back to cavemen, okay? They had sex, they created babies. Yeah, look, you're getting embarrassed now, you're going red.
No, it's obviously.
Yeah. So babies were created from this sexual act, so that made them left in a state of awe, really. They were incredibly marvelled by the magic of sex.
I just kind of imagined it as they hit a woman over the head and then dragged her back, rather than the magic of caveman sex.
No, but creating a baby from an act is pretty amazing if you've never seen that before, isn't it? If you don't think it's normal. So that became sacred, which led to religions and the laws that religions create, and religions' laws blended into these social classes. And we have the idea about heredity. So sex becomes an important thing if your kid has to be, an important person who's going to take your name forward. So that's where it comes from, according to these studies. And once these trends start, they're very difficult to get rid of.
Yeah, I just feel like exactly everything that you've just said, and society itself we've made sex a lot more than actually what it is.
Do you like sex?
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
Yes.
Yeah? I don't. No, I do really. Everyone does, I think. Everyone's interested in it. That's just what I don't understand. So I'd like to propose that, we would stop being embarrassed about sex. Why should we be embarrassed about sex? Sex at this university and in 2013 should not be a taboo anymore. Do you think so, Alex?
At this university, did you say?
Well, we're at university and we want to be liberal people. We want to be open-minded. We want to be modern. Well, most of us.
Well, I like I say, I think it continues to be the context, and I'll keep saying that.
Okay, sit on the fence then. What about you?
I'm sitting on the fence, definitely.
I'm going to join Alex on the fence and just say it is context.
Well, I totally disagree. I think that sex shouldn't be a taboo, and we need to work hard, on this show and on other shows, and just in life in general, to take sex out of the taboo bubble, really. Don't you think? No?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good that you don't sit on the fence. I think it's good that you've got a strong opinion. How would you go about it then, campaigning? We're in 2013, as you say. How would you go about campaigning for this, what you want?
I just would try and diffuse the word by radio, by TV, by newspapers, by every medium possible, that to people not to be embarrassed. Why should you be embarrassed? You should be able to mention sex to your grandma, to your mum, to your lecturer here at the university, to the doctor. We probably already do. What's the difference between saying what you had for lunch and what music you like to what type of sexual position you like?
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you. No one knows that song?
No. But
is that quite old school then? If you want to continue singing,
no, we're good.
More than welcome. So, Nikki, have you done any further research into this then?
We've just got one more about an anthropologist called Ernest Becker, who says that sex only becomes a problem because it reminds humans of their basic dilemma between being a savage and being a spiritual being, a higher being, and maybe we sort of and that goes back to sort of the cavemen being so marvelled by this, by the babies being born, and that's it basically. The belief between mortality and immortality, and spirituality against savage animal instincts. But the thing is, we're all animals anyway, and we all have animal instincts. So I don't really see why we should repress, as Rowan Atkinson was repressed there, and you two just seem repressed.
I think Nikki's demonstrating this very, very well. Have you noticed that me and Emma have gone particularly awkward during this conversation? But that's a good thing, because it's demonstrating that sex is a taboo, and it still is. And obviously, this is something that we need to overcome.
Do you care about this? Do you want to make sex less of a taboo?
I kind of don't feel like it's a really big issue, whether it is or it isn't. I understand that we do need to talk about it, but I don't think that it should just be so open that we talk about it.
But do you not think that people talking about sex all the time, talking about sex too much or not enough,
it would just become an everyday thing then.
Yeah.
It might actually lose its special...
Yeah,
exactly. So would there be teenage pregnancies? Would there be AIDS and all this stuff if it was open?
I just think it
if people talked about it all the time?
Not
Would
necessarily.
people have bad sex lives if people talked about it all the time?
I just think it takes away like the beauty of it and the privacy of it.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there, Emma. Definitely.
Right.
So have you got a concluding comment then, Nikki?
I think that it's let's get away from the idea that people who talk about sex are perverts. We all think it. We all do it, most of us. So look, everyone's going red and is smiling at me.
Not true.
He's redder than a radish.
Oh, absolutely not. Don't be silly.
This is 2013. We're on Sexy Syntax, and let's drive some positive change, and let's not be a slave to society.
Oh dear, you cracked at the last minute there with positive.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And just to let everybody know who's listening at home, we've got 10 people listening live. But of course, the emphasis now on Leeds Student Radio is obviously to listen at a time that's convenient for you, just like BBC iPlayer. So all our podcasts will be going up momentarily, as soon after the show as possible, onto our webpage. And again, that's at lsrfm.com/projects/sexy-syntax. And that's all we've got time for today. We'd like to say thank you to our special guest, Emma, and next week we'll be joined by Rob Cahill, and we'll be discussing political correctness and also LGBT/queer, given that it is LGBT History Month from tomorrow. Stay with us here on lsrfm.com for the lowdown, and that will be after the advertisements.
Bye.
Wasn't an advertisement.
Walking you home from uni. Every weekday from 5 till 7. Celebrity gossip. Fresh new music. Tedious links. And much, much more.